Namaste.
Namaste, namaste.
Namaste.
A journey of 7 years. Telangana Jana Vedika formation day was on the 17th September 2013. Since then, we have been conducting continuous debates. I think this is the 347th, this is the 22nd webinar we are conducting, Sunday webinar we are conducting post this lockdown. So Telangana Jana Vedika, in its continuous efforts to throw light on contemporary issues, today we thought we should discuss about China. Why China? And the topic today we have already seen, an enigmatic power in the 21st century, China, an enigmatic power in the 21st century. So, as we were discussing, Professor Sanjeev Reddy and me, we thought who would be the right person to discuss about China today. So China, Sanjeev Reddy sir has brought in Professor Rao. Professor Rao is an international relations specialist in the political science department at Osmania University. And foreign policy also. He has about 3 decades of teaching and research experience. He taught various aspects of international relations, core and electives, such as international relations, foreign policy of India, South Asia, national security, international law, government and politics of US, government and politics of Soviet Union, comparative politics. He has worked on India's foreign policy towards Southeast Asia for obtaining PhD degree. More than 20 officers in the rank of group of captain and lieutenant colonel from College of Air Warfare were awarded MPhil and degrees under his supervision. 3 candidates got their PhD degrees and 8 other candidates are working with him for their PhD degrees. A scholar from Thailand, Soyakam, had written a dissertation on the role of culture in international relations under his supervision and is now working for his PhD on the role of culture in the India's foreign policy at St. Andrews University, UK. Another scholar, Colonel Anil Raman, who he has guided for his MPhil, is working with Wyoming University, USA. As an editor, he has published 2 books with contributions from a number of scholars. The titles are Higher Education in the Current Scenario of 2014 and Gandhi and Issues of Contemporary Times 2017. As a researcher, for more than 24 papers are published in periodicals and edited volumes covering themes such as China and India's security, China's strategic discourse, advising South Asian Union, terrorism in South Asia, merit principle and South Indian bureaucracy, reservations and bureaucracy, reductionist paradigm shift and public policies, governance, democracy and corruption in India. So this is Dr. Rao for all of us. So coming to the point today, China, what is its culture? Actually, I requested Dr. Rao also to go into the depth of the Chinese rise, a meteoric rise in its quest for power or for anything. So we will have to bear with Dr. Rao for some time, and I request all of you to be patient, and it's going to be a long talk. Thereafter, all your questions will be answered. I request all of you to be very patient in listening to Dr. Rao. And I hand over the mic to Dr. Akutota Srinivasalu to moderate and hand over to Dr. Rao, please. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Telangana Jana Vedika జూమ్ ఆన్లైన్ మీటింగ్ కు ఇచ్చేసినటువంటి ప్రొఫెసర్ జేఎల్ఎన్ రావు గారికి మరియు పెద్దలు, వేదిక సభ్యులు, మిత్రులు, నేను అనుకుంటున్న కొన్ని దేశాల నుండి కూడా ఈ జూమ్ ఆన్లైన్లో జాయిన్ అయినటువంటి మిత్రులందరికీ కూడా నా యొక్క సాయంకాల నమస్కారాలు తెలియజేస్తూ అందరికీ స్వాగతం, సుస్వాగతం. ఇవాళ చాలా విలువైన గొప్ప టాపిక్గా దీన్ని మనం చెప్పుకునే అవకాశాలు ఉన్నాయి. ఎందుకంటే 21వ శతాబ్దపు సంక్లిష్ట శక్తిగా చైనా అనేటువంటి ఒక అంశాన్ని తీసుకోవడం జరిగింది. ఇది చాలా మన భారతదేశ ప్రజలకు కానీ ఇతర ప్రజలకు కానీ ఇది కొత్త టాపిక్ గానే ఉంటుంది. ఏంగా కూడా చాలా టిపికల్ టాపిక్, ఇది చాలా ఇంట్రెస్టింగ్ టాపిక్. ఇది దీని గురించి మనము తెలుసుకోవాల్సినటువంటి అవసరం ఉంది. ముఖ్యంగా ఎప్పుడైతే ప్రపంచంలోని 2 అగ్రదేశాలుగా చెప్పుకున్నటువంటి అమెరికా కానీ ఒకనాటి రష్యా కానీ 2 అగ్రరాజ్యాలుగా ప్రపంచాన్ని ఏలినటువంటి 2 అగ్రరాజ్యాల్లో ప్రధానంగా రష్యా అనేటువంటిది 1990 ప్రాంతంలో దాని యొక్క స్థానాన్ని కోల్పోయి, ఎప్పుడైతే రష్యా తన స్థానాన్ని కోల్పోయిందో అప్పటి నుండి చైనా అనేటువంటిది ప్రపంచ సమాజం లోపలికి ఒక అడుగు ముందుకు వేయడం అనేటువంటిది జరిగింది. అదేవిధంగా రష్యా యొక్క స్థానాన్ని ఇవాళ చైనా ఆక్రమించేటువంటి ప్రయత్నం చేస్తుందా అని చెప్పడంలో ఏమాత్రం సందేహం లేదు. దాంట్లో భాగంగానే ఇవాళ ప్రపంచ అగ్రరాజ్యాల్లో ఒకటిగా చైనా కూడా చేరిపోవాలనేటువంటి ఒక సంకల్పంతో, ఒక దృఢ సంకల్పంతో చైనా ముందడుగు వేస్తుంది అని చెప్పడంలో సందేహం లేదు. ముఖ్యంగా అది సైనిక శక్తిలో కానీ, ఆర్థిక శక్తిలో కానీ, పారిశ్రామిక రంగంలో కానీ, ఇతర రంగాల్లో ముందు దూసుకుపోతుంది. ఇవాళ అమెరికా తర్వాత ప్రపంచంలో అత్యధిక శక్తివంతమైనటువంటి దేశంగా ఈ యొక్క చైనా అనేటువంటిది ముందుకు పోతున్న క్రమం. కానీ ఇక్కడ వచ్చినటువంటి సమస్య ఏంటంటే భారతదేశానికి ఇవాళ చైనాకు పెద్ద అగాధం అనేటువంటిది ఏర్పడ్డది. ఏదైతే లైన్ ఆఫ్ కంట్రోల్ అనేటువంటి ప్రాంతం లోపల భారతదేశానికి చైనా మధ్యలో జరుపుకున్నటువంటి ఈ యొక్క వివాదాలు ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో దాన్ని రోజు రోజు చిలికి గాలివానగా పోయి 2 దేశాల మధ్య యుద్ధమే వస్తుందా అనేటువంటి క్రమాన్ని కూడా మనం చూస్తున్నాం. సరే, ఏదేమైనప్పటికీ ప్రపంచ దేశాల్లో అమెరికా మరి ఇప్పుడు చైనా అనేటువంటివి 2గా మనకు కనబడుతున్నాయి. ఈ యొక్క దృష్టిలో, ఈ యొక్క అంశాన్ని దృష్టిలో పెట్టుకునే ఈ 21వ శతాబ్దపు సంక్లిష్ట శక్తిగా చైనా అనేటువంటి అంశాన్ని మనం ఎన్నుకున్నాం. అందుకే ప్రొఫెసర్ జేఎల్ఎన్ రావు గారు, వారు డిపార్ట్మెంట్ ఆఫ్ పొలిటికల్ సైన్స్ ఉస్మానియా యూనివర్సిటీలో వారు సీనియర్ ప్రొఫెసర్ గా పనిచేశారు. వారు 30 సంవత్సరాల కాలం పాటు ఈ యొక్క అధ్యాపక వృత్తిలో ఉన్నారు. వారు ప్రపంచ దేశాల లోపల జాతీయ అంతర్జాతీయ స్థాయిలో అనేక పేపర్లు కూడా రాయడం జరిగింది. వారి కింద అనేక మంది పిహెచ్డీలు, ఎంపీలు కూడా చేశారు. వారి దగ్గర పనిచేసినటువంటి వారు, చదువుకున్నటువంటి వారు దేశ విదేశాల లోపల ఎన్నో ఉన్నతమైనటువంటి పదవుల్లో ఉన్నారు. వారి అంశం మీద 21వ శతాబ్దపు సంక్లిష్ట శక్తిగా చైనా అనేటువంటి అంశం మీద వారిని మాట్లాడవలసిందిగా ప్రొఫెసర్ జేఎల్ఎన్ రావు గారిని ఆహ్వానిస్తున్నారు. ప్రొఫెసర్ జేఎల్ఎన్ రావు గారు, ప్లీజ్ సార్.
అందరికీ నమస్కారం. ఐఎమ్ గ్రేట్ఫుల్ టు Ramu garu and other members of Telangana Jana Vedika for facilitating me to interact with all of you. I also would like to thank Professor Sanjeeva Reddy, who is instrumental bringing me here to interact with you on this particular topic in today's evening. And I would like to thank all of you for giving me an opportunity to meet in this farm. When we talk about China, my lecture may go for about 75 to 95 minutes, or little more than, or little less than that. And the one complexity all of us face is pronouncing certain Chinese names. The way Chinese names were written some 20 years back with the same, spelling, they are not written, now. And, another thing is that the way Chinese names are, pronounced by different individuals, so they are again, they are not, also not the same, depending upon the local dialectics or the language, that, we are, speaking. Suppose if an American, pronounces the Chinese name, his accent will be different. My accent, will be different if somebody educated either in America or Britain or Germany or France. So this variation is going to be there. So my request and appeal to all of you is, don't get confused. Since I did not prepare any PowerPoint presentation, so you have to bear with my accent. Yeah. So that coming to the topic, while introducing the topic, Ramu Garu said so that all of us have been hearing about China in the last 4 months because of whatever the pandemic or this coronavirus all of us are facing, not just in India, but throughout the world, whether it is Europe or America or Africa or developing countries, developed countries, or rich people, poor people, scientists, so this is the issue. So that's why, suppose if you ask anybody about India, probably they must not have heard about India, but I'm sure that they are not talking about China because of this virus. And another thing is, all of us have been listening to the debates on different TV channels. We are also listening to the news that are broadcast by different TV channels. We have been reading about China, this and that, whatever has been happening on the India and China border, even in the newspapers. Not only that, the journalists, academicians, also people working in civil society, people working in different walks of life, are talking about different things related to China in the last 4 months. And as far as India and coming to the Telangana is concerned, some of us may be following China for more than half a century because it is one of our neighbors and also the partners, not only in the last 60 or 70 years. Whatever the relations that have been going on between these two countries, they can be traced to the even the BC period also, at least not less than 2000 years. Relations have been in existence between these two countries. And also, whatever the political and ideological movements that were happening in India, the way our people, political leaders, academicians were influenced whatever was happening in China. Some of the leaders tried to implement some of those programs in the erstwhile Andhra Pradesh or present in Telangana. So because of various reasons, all of us are at least hearing about China. So far, so fine. But here, in the beginning, I would like to raise half a dozen questions which are pertinent for all of us in understanding China. So then the first question I would like to raise with all of you is, here you have to ponder over, you have to think what is the source of information for us. Just now I was saying it may be the TV channels, it may be the newspapers. Again, whoever is talking about China, whoever is writing about China, whatever may be the background of the scholar or the individual, what is the source of information even for them? Whoever is talking about China, whoever is writing about China, and do they know the Chinese language? Chinese language is known as Mandarin. In the last 2 decades, see, China throughout the world started establishing Confucius institution to teach Chinese language, that is known as the Mandarin. So this is Mandarin language is not the only language that exists in China, but there are many other languages. But the government of China would not allow any other language being treated as the official language like India. There are 22 official languages in Telugu, Kannada, Marathi, Konkani, then Sindhi, Punjabi, so many things. And our students are also studying in their own language, not only at the school level, but even at the university level. But that is not the case with China. Suppose if somebody wants to know about Telangana, either they'll be coming here, they may be interacting with us, or they'll be, while interacting, to know more and know more about our people, our culture, our politics, our economy. They may be learning even the Telugu language, some European or just to take the example of that man, the man who prepared first English Telugu dictionary, Brown, who was the collector in Kadapa district. He was the first man to produce English Telugu dictionary. Prior to that, some of our people learned English language, who were translating whatever we are trying to communicate in our own language. Coming back to whatever I am talking about, how many of these people are having the knowledge about the Mandarin? Whatever may be. That's the one thing. And in India, especially, till almost 2 or 3 years back, you take just adjacent to our Usmania University, there is a institute called English and Foreign Language University. There, only European languages are taught, not Asian language. A few years back, even Chinese language was, Japanese language was introduced. I think 1 or 2 years back, Chinese language was first introduced. So how come this, when the interactions has been going on for 2000 years, what is this? Please try to understand this aspect also, so that, and it is not only applies to the this, it equally applies to the academics or the academicians who are working on China. Very handful of people are there who can speak and read and write in Chinese language. Government of India did not allow till 3 years back to teach Chinese language in any of the university except 1 or 2 institutes. One is in, and both institutions are located in Delhi only. But what about India? Is a huge country. So that's why, and another thing is, but at the same time, we simply believe in sensational reporting or writing sensational. Right? And another thing is, whenever something is, reported, sensationally, immediately it catches our eye. So we start, reading. But now, in the last few years, we have been, reading, one thing. Even newspapers also started publishing, paid news. They are like any other news. Suppose if I belong to a particular group or the party, I can write. And then whoever is, they think it is a an article written objectively. Right? In the age of the paid news, in the newspapers and TV channels, and which one has to be treated as an authentic one, and which one has to be treated as reliable one. Because all the governments will be carrying out the propaganda. The respectable term we are using nowadays is publicity. Whenever you switch on a TV, if it even in news channel, every 5 minutes you will be knowing about some product or or other in the form of publicity. When a company is propagating about its products, we call it a publicity, but governments also indulge in propaganda. But we never take these things seriously. But we simply start believing in these things. The second issue is whatever we are reading. Generally, we'll be reading in English newspapers. Again, what is the source of the that is appearing in? Is it the source is Chinese language, or is it translated from the Chinese language into English? So generally, so Americans or the European scholars, so they will be some of them maybe specializing on China, maybe Chinese economy, politics, or the Chinese Communist Party, and Chinese culture, and so many aspects. So generally, whatever is generally published in the West, again that is printed on the basis of such reporting. Our scholars and our people will be talking about China also. That's why understanding China is a major challenge for all of us. So not only just whoever is listening to this lecture, I am also reading whatever is appearing in English papers only. Hello, am I audible? Are you listening to?
Yes. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Because
Yes, we are listening.
so that's why these are the questions or the issues with which I would like to start about China. So our understanding about China is only partial. It is not complete. It will never be complete at all. We can understanding to a greater extent about any European country or about particularly North American countries and like United States of America. But when it comes to China or any other Asian cultures, this is a major problem for us. It is not only people like you and me, it is also the problem even for the Prime Minister, the strategists, academicians, for all of us. Nobody is above these things. So that's why there are many limitations in understanding China for all of us, including you and me. Then you may raise the issue that why I'm talking here. I have been reading that thing in the last few years. I'm having a little exposure to the people who are working in defense forces. Right now, I'm having a student who is working in China. So that's why now and then I am also trying to get that one. And that particular students learned Chinese language for 2 years. So that's why. So whatever he is trying to share with me, and I am relying one or two of those students, and a few people who have been studying about China. Coming to the first issue, or I may be raising a number of issues. Probably I may not be providing answer for all those questions also myself, but I'll try my best to deal with to the extent possible as per my capability and capacity. So to understand a nation, one has to understand what the people of that nation think about themselves and about others. What Indians think about about themselves, because these issues will not raise in our academics also. Now what is there? We as Indians, India means what? Is it India is a really complex society? Do we know every aspect of Indian society? So many variations. No, by living in Hyderabad for 30, 40 years, we know something, but not every aspect of the Telangana or Andhra Pradesh or South India, but we talk. So that's why our understanding is also having some limitation. So that's why when we talk about some nation, first we have to know what people of that nation think about themselves, what is their understanding about others. Others means about some other country or about the world, whatever is happening between their country and other countries at the global level, at the regional level. The way decisions are taken, even within their country. For that, first we have to understand the basis of that understanding. I call that as the philosophy. When I use the word philosophy, then generally the way philosophy is taught in the university, please don't try to understand that. So what the Chinese think about themselves. See here, though this started long back, even they also think that way even now also. But to what extent digital technology could bring changes in the thinking of the Chinese, it is a big question mark. Chinese generally think about themselves as middle kingdom. Middle kingdom. Middle kingdom means they think they are the center of the universe. In our science teacher teach, and all of us think that what is the center of universe? Yes, sun is the center of this galaxy, this planetary system. But Chinese think they are the center of the universe. So that means whatever happens in the universe, it revolves around them. So this is their understanding about themselves. What is their understanding about others? And since time immemorial, whatever the states that are located in its neighborhood, whether it is Mongolia, whether it is Vietnam or the Cambodia or Korea, and generally, and the nations that are located in Southeast Asia, they treat them as their tributaries. If I have to use the Telugu term, I do not know whether it is equivalent to Telugu term or not, but Samanta Rajalu, Samanta Rajalu, yeah, this. So that's why earlier, these tributaries used to pay some sort of tribute and used to respect the king. And just imagine, such a concept was also existing in ancient India. That was called Chakravarti or Chakravarti. There existed any number of kingdoms in ancient India, but one used to be considered as the supreme or the Chakravarti. So that is what is called Ashwamedha Yaga. At least we know that. Don't treat that one either it is purely in political terms or in religious terms. It is having a political aspect as well as the metaphysical aspect also. And another thing is when they talk about equality, it is equality among the Chinese themselves. They never treated people living outside China as the equal to them. Especially the people who are living in its outside Chinese territory, they described them as the barbarians. This was also the term that was used by the Europeans in order to colonize Africa and Asia also. See, they consider themselves as the civilized. And another thing is China is not just one country, and but we can treat it as a civilization. Civilization. It is having a distinct culture compared to other societies, other countries also. Coming to the other aspects, when I am talking about the civilization, it was a civilization. It's a nation culture also, and it is having its own language. Then, so generally, you take any language in the world, every language is having alphabets A, B, C, D, I, E, O, O, or whatever may be the language. But Chinese are having they are not having alphabet; they are having characters, or it is written in the form pictographic script, or it looks like a picture. So as far as their language is concerned, it is having words but not alphabets. So please yeah, take note of this also. And another thing is also, see here, the way language is spoken, and the meaning of the words also undergoes change. Sometimes you may be using high value. Sometimes you may be using low value. Sometimes you may be using medium this one. And another thing is there are certain sounds, they are called as neutral sounds also. The way one uses the language, the meaning of the words also undergoes change. Suppose the way, if we use the Chinese language with our accent, so then they understand it differently. So that's why it is generally considered as the most difficult language in the world. Suppose if you want to have a conversation with anybody in Chinese, then at least you have to familiarize with 2,000 to 3,000 words. In the recent past, we have had hearing about rote learning. Yeah, even new education policy wanted to do away with that rote learning. మన తెలుగులో ఏమంటాం బట్టి కొట్టడం అంటున్నాం కదా. విన్నారా? ఇప్పుడు తెలుగు లాంగ్వేజ్ లో మనకు ఒకటి ఉన్నది, ప్రపంచంలో ఏ లాంగ్వేజ్ లేదు. అవధాన ప్రక్రియ, అష్టావధానం, శతావధానం, సహస్రావధానం. మీరు ఏది అడిగినా వాళ్ళు ఆలోచిస్తూనే ఉంటారు. మధ్యలో మీకు కూడా తెలిసిందే, ఈ మధ్య నేను కొంచెం వాటి గురించి ఎక్కువ చూస్తున్నా. కొన్ని ప్రపంచంలో ఏ భాషలో లేదు ఇట్లాంటి ప్రక్రియ. సో దెన్ and unless you try to get to know those words, you cannot make any conversation. So that's why it is considered the most difficult language. And another thing is also, China was the first country in the world to introduce a written examination to recruit the bureaucrat. Now all of us are aware that whether it is JEE or the NEET or UPPSC exam, whatever the exam that is conducted by the Public Service Commission at the state level or at the union level, now it's all there is a written examination, then it's called Viva also, all this but they introduce this format of the recruitment so more than 2,000 years back, a written examination to recruit the bureaucrat. And another thing is also, and they also used to conduct the interview to recruit these people into the government service. So, and recently I come across, because as far as India is concerned, now I am listening to a number of scholars who are either settled in Europe or North America, and teaching in American universities as a professor. Some of them just resigned to jobs and started taking up research related to culture, language, and history also. So this is altogether a new exposure as far as my little knowledge is concerned. So that's why here, yeah, one has to be familiar with this also. And another thing is, generally, Chinese language is considered as the aesthetic language. That means the beauty, the way it is written, the way it is spoken. So aesthetics. And another thing is also, that's why whoever masters in this language, you can see this, it is like calligraphy. Probably people of my generation may not be aware that seniors, maybe 5 or the 10 or 15, 20 years, whenever they were receiving 10th class memos, they were written in a particular style. So that's why China is also known for high type of painting and high quality of the ceramics. Even now also, whoever is buying these pots and other things, you see the paintings that exist on those utensils of the pots or no ceramics. So just imagine, one has to understand China in this this. And another thing is also Chinese speak quietly. See, probably when Xi Jinping visited Mahabalipuram or yeah, visited earlier. See, our Prime Minister was trying to explain to him, and he was coolly listening to that, and hardly you see any lip movement, as for that. So that's why when you are talking, very difficult to understand, the way they are reacting. See, and that means you can't read their faces at all. Facial reading is very difficult. It is part of their culture also. And another thing is while talking about their culture, in their culture or in the Chinese culture, it is rude and impolite to say yes immediately. No, this I came across in one of our foreign ministers books, Shams Shepherd. So then when he Chinese language, when he was working in Beijing, he invited his Chinese teacher for dinner. So then yeah, she could not reply it. Then he asked her, requested her twice or thrice. Then she was. So that's why suppose if you accept the invitation immediately, generally it is considered as a rude thing or impolite. So that is their culture, nothing wrong. Suppose if you behave in a similar way, అరే వాడికి గర్వం వచ్చిందిరా, లేకపోతే వానికి వాడు ఏమనుకుంటున్నాడు, గొప్పోడు అనుకుంటున్నారా? This is our understanding, this is our culture, that is their culture. So that's why this is the problem as far as certain aspect, one aspect of the Chinese culture is concerned. Then we'll be coming across a number of philosophers who try to uh, provide some aspect of the Chinese culture. Let us take Chinese philosopher that Confucius. In the last 20 years, as I was saying sometime back, a number of institutions were established throughout the world. They are named after him. That's why they are called as Confucius institutions. Where Chinese language is taught, whoever is interested, and also they will be teaching about the Chinese culture, Chinese economy, and different aspects of these things. So what are the principles that were emphasized by this man, this philosopher? One is respect for elders, respect for state authority, and he also emphasized on the importance of order in the politics, in the economy. And another thing is also order in the universe also. Please remember this. A minute back I was talking about, so they consider themselves as the center of the universe. So that's why they will be formulating their philosophy on the basis of this one. So there is another man or the philosopher called as Hornfezi. Probably I may not be pronouncing accurately the way Chinese will be pronouncing. Spelling it is written as H-A-N space Fezi or Shedi, yeah, F-E-I-Z-I, who lived in the 3rd century BC during the Qin dynasty. No, he also laid down certain principles, the way politics is to be conducted. Power is the decisive factor in politics. That's one. And another thing is there is no room or space for moral principles as far as the politics is concerned. And another thing is the ruler should ruthlessly enforce no laws. What we find to a great extent in most of the society is this disorder or lawlessness or this. And yeah, to some extent, but we characterize this as it is our right or the freedom this and that one. But anyway, this Hanusheji talked about this. Power is decisive factor in politics. There is no room for sentiment as far as the ruler is concerned. King should ruthlessly enforce laws. The third one, that is Sun Tzu. As I was saying, it is written one form and it will be pronounced in another. The spelling is S-U-N space T-Z-U, Sun Tzu. Yeah. And he has written a book, The Art of War. It's just around 50-55 pages that is translated by some American university. That book is also available in the market, or in Hyderabad one you can come across that book even on the pavements also. So that's why he laid down certain principles as far as the way war has to be conducted. Yeah. So that is he talked about the psychological aspect of the one need not go to the battlefield to win the wars. No one can initiate or do anything to win the war psychologically. So generally nowadays the phrase that is used is a mind game. So nowadays in Telugu press, TV channels we are coming across this way, and this man is playing a mind game. That leader is playing mind game. This equally applies even to the business also. When we talk about principles that are to be followed in war, that does not mean they are only applicable to the world of politics, but they are equally applicable while doing business. The way one conducting one's own behavior, whatever it is there. It may be in the form of writing, it may be in the form of propaganda or publicity, or it may be in the form of the way news or things are broadcast by the TV channels, the way and things are not deliberated or debated also. See, you cannot put aside any of those aspects from these principles. Coming to the modern times, you know that at least we used to come across these line on the walls, especially in the Telangana. Power comes through the barrel of the gun. No? So yeah, all of us are familiar with So please try to understand it is there. That means they are talking about the relationship between politics and coercive power. Coercive power. No, please don't never try to equate this and that one, and never try to judge these things in a moral terms. So that's why Mao said that war is not necessarily a bad thing. Since revolutions took place through war, liberating people and countries. Yeah. And he also gave the Second World War had created conditions for China's liberation and also allowed India's independence. In our history textbooks of politics, generally we talk about only one aspect of whatever happened at that time, but that was the internal situation. If the change has to be brought in, sometimes the external environment also shapes what happens within a country, in the neighborhood of a particular country. But that's why internal as well as external aspects may be determining whatever really happens in a country. Yeah, coming back to this, China was facing, yeah, it was experiencing development, culture, different thing. At the same time, it has been facing a war-like situation from time to time. Unfortunately, in our academics, we do not deal with this aspect, because once the Second World War ended, the world tried to focus upon providing political stability. So this was what happened, or this sort of the situation was created in the West. So that's why they tried to provide a political stability, especially from the 1900 onwards, especially after the First World War, then the Second World War there. and at least there were no conflicts as far as the internally as far as the West was concerned. But this is not the case, either in Asia or Africa. Please understand. So similarly, almost all the societies throughout the world, including the West also. Suppose, if one reads, that Paul Kennedy's book, Rise and Fall of the Great Powers, which sums up, the European history from the 1500 to almost, the present, times, or even, he tried to make a certain projection, till the year 2000. Then whoever reads that book, generally what was really happening even in Europe also. As far as, since we are talking about China, let us try to focus upon that the West first entered into China in the 19th century. First, it is the American missionaries which landed on the Chinese soil in 1830. Once they went there, they established, as it is the case with other countries, these American missionaries established hospitals, colleges, and universities also. When I was going through some literature, the first university that was established in China was 1898. The present Peking University or the Beijing University, that was the first university that was established by the ruling dynasty that at the time it was called the Imperial University in 1898. Prior to that one, the American missionaries established a number of their own university, in which Western science was taught, Western philosophy was taught, and law was also taught. This was happening in imagine in the first quarter of let us say somewhere between the second quarter of the 19th century. Again, American sent a minister in 1842, and he anchored his ship on the on the sea. Then he sent a gift to the emperor of. Do you imagine what the gifts that were sent by this minister to the Chinese emperor? He sent revolvers. Please remember that one, China was the first nation to manufacture the gunpowder, but I do not know the reason, but it did not use. Yeah. So, but we are not taught it is the European first who invented that. In somewhere, in the BC or AD, in the first century AD, it's the Chinese who. But probably the difference, must have been, a lot, whatever the way these people, Europeans manufacture and then the Chinese to manufacture this gunpowder. So that's why his name is Caleb Cushing. He was a American minister. So then who went to China in 1842. He made certain gifts to the Chinese emperor. They are the revolvers, then the telescopes, then encyclopedia. Please remember this. So that means he wanted to impress the Chinese emperor. That is, the West is, making, advancement in, different sectors by using, that knowledge. They are, in a position to manufacture altogether a different, products, revolvers, telescopes, and encyclopedias. Please remember these things. So, and after that, the first, the China sent its first two students, they were sent to America to study in, American college in 1870. Please remember, because I am going to touch upon this after some time, talking about the importance of education. So then, so then what is called opium wars, they were imposed by the Britain, who were ruling India. They were exporting. They could amass a lot of wealth by exporting opium to China. Then the Chinese wanted to resist that one. As a result of that one, two wars took place. They are called the first opium war in between 1839 to 1842. Then the second Opium War, 1856 to 1860. So then, all the European powers. So that means, whether it is France or the Britain, Germany. So then, Russia, and they were also joined by the Japan. They wanted to create, their own sphere of influence in different parts of China. They wanted to exploit, China. From the beginning, they considered, China was a market. So, but as far as Americans were concerned, that they appeal to the European nations, that such an idea be discarded, and territorial integrity of China be guaranteed by the European powers. In its place, America put forth the proposal so that let everyone follow the open door policy. That means let all the European powers conduct trade with China on equal footing, but that was not listened by either Russia or Japan. Thereafter, they committed this thing in 1860 again. So then different European powers thing. And that's why you can see lot of political instability also in China once the Europeans went to China. There existed a number of warlords. So that means whoever, depending upon the force or the military power, they were controlling different parts of the China. Though there was somebody known as emperor, but the whole of China was not under the control of that emperor. So then in 1911 they took place a revolution. That's why it is called a 1911 revolution under the leadership of Sun Yat-sen. For the first time, he introduced three concepts to China. One is nationalism. Second is democracy, and people's livelihood. So till that point of time, these concepts were alien, because he studied in Japan and America. His wife also was a product of an American university, and Sun Yat-sen's father-in-law was a Methodist denomination minister. So that's why for the first time this 1911 revolution that took place in China introduced these concepts: nationalism, democracy, and people's livelihood. Here I am moving fast because most of these things are also familiar too. So then Second World War had begun. At that time Mao started Communist Party was established. It wanted to liberate the countryside from the feudal lords and warlords. Wanted to bring many changes in the Chinese society. At the same time this Sun Yat-sen died in 1925, and when Sun Yat-sen was the leader of China, he established a military academy, and he then Chiang Kai-shek became the president of that military academy. After Sun Yat-sen passed away, this man became the president of China. It is called CNP or the KMT party, or Kuomintang. Yeah. So then the Chinese started a war against Japan. Japan committed aggression in 1928. It occupied some province called Manchuria. So they established their own state and installed a puppet there. It is known as the Manchukuo state. But anyway, that is yeah. So then they were fighting against these Japanese forces. At some point of time, Chiang Kai-shek forces, that is the Kuomintang forces, and Mao's communist forces also united, and they fought against the Japanese also. You know that World War II ended, where in which Japan was defeated, along with Italy and Germany. Finally, Mao succeeded in establishing a communist rule throughout the country. But when the Kuomintang forces could not resist the communist forces of Mao, and this Shanghai Sheikh fled to an island called Formosa. Now it is called as Republic of China or Taiwan. So he established his own rule there. So that means from from 1949 onwards, there came into existence two China. One is called People's Republic of China. We call it China. About which we are going to talk for some more time today. And another is called as Republic of China, or that is called Taiwan. So, but I am going to talk only about People's Republic of China, or it is called mainland China, or main China. So then once the communists succeeded establishing their rule on the mainland, internally they adopted a belligerent stand, both internally as well as externally, to consolidate themselves. But when they are consolidating these things, they also faced a lot of problems on the domestic front. Externally also they face another problem in the form of the Korean War. So anyway, I need not be talking about. One is the Korean War. Another is in 1950 again they also occupied Tibet. Please here you have to remember one thing. Why they occupied the Tibet? So generally we talk about Tibet, but whatever the Tibet, they understand, we call Tibet is almost 3/4 of the Tibet that was existing prior to 1949, and the 3/4 of that Tibet was incorporated in 3 or 4 provinces that were adjacent to the Tibet now. Whatever is called present Tibet, it was not the Tibet that was existing prior to 1949. Please remember this thing. Another thing, why the Tibet is important for China here? It is Tibet that provides waters for all the Chinese rivers. It is its Yellow River or the Yangtze, and there is another river, and because of these rivers, if the China is producing sufficient food grains for 135 million people, it is because of this. So that's why the Tibet is most important for the Chinese here for the strategic regions for its resources. Not just because of this culture or that culture or Buddhism and another thing. Please remember this thing. And these are the two. One is Korean War. So then another is another war that is in 1954 that was going on in Vietnam also. In 1954, all of you are aware, the Vietnamese defeated the French, the European power, which were controlling in the Vietnam. In the same year, China and India also entered into a Panchashila agreement. Till that point of time, we were having, two posts. One is Yatung, another is called, another post. So where the communications lines were connected between Tibet and India. Under that Panchashila agreement, government of India agreed to withdraw those things. We also recognize Tibet as an autonomous region of China. And during this period, that means China also got this thing, that is political support from the then Soviet Union. It also got economic aid, and whatever the technology that was necessary for the reconstruction of the China and economic development of this thing, because of ideological affinity between these things. But at the same time, you have to remember one more thing is also between 1948 till 1953, Stalin was in power in Soviet Russia. But somehow, so Stalin and Mao, they were not on equal wavelength in spite of both countries being the communist. As far as the Lenin was concerned, it is the workers who became backbone in bringing the revolution in this way. Plus peasants also. But as far as the China is concerned, Mao never used workers. There was no industrialization at all. So, but Communist Party of China totally relied on the peasants to bring the communist revolution in China. And then the question comes, why that wavelength was not there between these two? Stalin was consolidating his position. That means Soviet position in Eastern Europe, imposing communism and another thing. So, and another thing also, there was also some differences between these two personalities. Sometimes you say the personality classes. So immediately after the revolution, Mao traveled all the way from Beijing to Moscow in a train, and to Siberia, and to Mao's surprise or the shock, Mao was not received by the Stalin. He was received by his foreign minister. So that means Stalin's foreign minister. Suppose if you go back to that one, in 1939, when the Second World War had begun, so violating the protocol, international law, Stalin had sent his foreign minister to receive a Nazi Germany's foreign minister. It is Stalin, who personally went to the railway station, to receive the Nazi foreign minister, that is Ribbentrop. So that's why these were not differences there, in spite of the cooperation, in spite of the Marxist, Leninist, ideology. So then, the Mao started a number of programs, to consolidate, the Chinese Communist Party over the Chinese society, to give a new direction to the Chinese, society. So then, first thing is, industrializing, China, and modernizing China. As it is the case, with generally modernization is equated with industrialization. So that's the standard of life can be improved. So then all people can be connected through the rail and network. So then for that at the time the criteria of the modernization was how much steel that is produced in a country, how much steel that is used for the industrialization or the reconstruction of the country. So that's why Mao started a program called as Great Leap Forward, in order to produce more and more steel. Then he made all the peasants to produce more and more steel, because of lack of technical knowledge. They could not produce the best steel. It's only the pig iron substandard this one. But anyway, so as a result of this thing, according to an estimate, and when this program was going on, there were also the famines in China. As a result, China lost about 30 million people. 30 million means 3 crores of the people. It is so between 1956 and let us say 64 or 66. So then there is lot of criticism on the central leadership. So that's why again Mao started another program called cultural revolution. And again this program went till 1966 to 1969. Some people say 69, or some say it ended in 72, or some people say in 1976. That means for about this decade. So this is the result of a power struggle that went on between Mao and one man called as Lin Biao, Linbiao, another one. So another is party function, that is Li Shaoxi. So please remember this thing. So whatever it may be, again Mao gave a call to the they are called Red Guards, take over everything, and he gave a call let this cultural revolution demolished old culture, old tradition, old customs, and old ideologies. So again, torture, so then killings and humiliation were unleashed on the society. It is the students or who it is the workers who are on the lower rungs working in the factories. They try to take over the power. It is neither the People's Liberation Army, it is the party, but no certain segment of the party had taken over the reins of the power. So as a result of this thing, education was worst affected. Colleges were closed, schools were closed, and universities were closed for years together. Scientists were humiliated, professors were sent back to the rural areas, and they are the people who ever disagreed with this idea, they were humiliated. So that's why here the Chinese economy was growing somewhere between 3 and 3.5%. As a result of great leap forward and also the cultural revolution. And as far as the international scene is concerned here, in 1956 certain developments took place. In Soviet Union there took place 20th century Congress, and Khrushchev denounced whatever the great purchase that took place during that one. He added new 3 theses to the communist doctrine. One is war is not historically inevitable. Second thing is there are many roads to the socialism. From this period onwards, Soviet Union started quoting the friendship of the progressive countries from the third world, whether they are located either in Asia and Africa. It also talked about peaceful coexistence between capitalism and communism. So then after this, so again when the Soviet stand change with respect to the non-communist states in Asia and Africa, then there started emerging differences between Soviet Union and China also, and and another there also started taking place differences between Soviet Union and China over other communist countries also. Please remember, and in its fight against the Americans from the early 60s onwards, Vietnam moved closer to the Soviet Union, and then the Soviet leaders started feeling they were isolated. And another thing is also when there took place a war between India and China, Soviet press strict neutrality. Whatever the Indian press reported, Chinese press reported exactly those things. Whatever the Chinese press reported about the war or the casualties, Soviet press reported exactly that. It did not take any stand in favor of China. This created some sort of a suspicion among these things, and from the 60s onwards, and that's why when there took place a war between India and China India and Pakistan in 19, China sided with Pakistan. Please remember that one, and so and so on. So again, I'm moving in a bit fast because I have to cover a lot in another 20-25 minutes. Yeah, and another thing is this thing. In 60s, there took place a number of developments at the global level. One is for the first time, there took place military clashes on the river Ushuri between China and Soviet Union, 1968, 69, and then the political leadership of the both countries were using almost abusive language against each other. In the same year, there also took place the American president announced that America is going to withdraw from Philippines, that is called as Guam Doctrine. Britain also announced that it is going to withdraw its forces from the east of Suez. So from the so Middle East site. So that's why when these developments take place, then the Soviet Union came forward with another idea, that is Asian security proposal. So that means Soviet Union came forward with the proposal that it would play a role providing some sort of a security shield to the Asian nations against any aggressor. It may be China or it may be United States of America. But nobody took it seriously. So that's why it died. It's natural death. So when these developments taking place, then America wanted to fish in the troubled waters. That's why then when the Bangladesh crisis was going on, so then the America's the Secretary of State paid a secret visit to China. Then he met Mao Zedong or the Mao Zedong, and then later on that visit finally culminated China and the United States of America coming together against the Soviet Union. With this development, these negotiations were going on. Then the Soviet Union also started searching for the new allies. So then here again from the more or less same period. So negotiation and the Soviet Union, finally it culminated India and the Soviet Union signing that's peace treaty in 1971 during the Bangladesh So that means by early 70s there took place realignment of the political forces, economic forces at the global level, that is in the form of Sino-American Entente and Indo-Soviet treaty. So that after some time again, that Chou En-lai passed away in the year 1970. In the month of January, the Mao also died in September 1976, and it was followed by some sort of a political turmoil domestically in China. It went between one is prior to that one Chou En-lai, Deng Xiaoping. So then the gang of four. One of the leaders was Mao's wife, younger wife. Her name is Xiang Qing. So Jiang, then Qing. So other leaders were Jiami Xingqiu, and another Yao Wan Yuan, and another last one is Wang Hongwen. So these were four leaders. They are characterized as gang of four. Some sort of a power struggle took place between these four leaders on one side, and Chou En-lai, and another is Deng Xiaoping, and finally in the last days of Mao he brought some unknown leader from one of the provinces. His name is Hua Guo Feng. Finally it is Hua Guo Feng who became the premier as well as the party president. In the struggle, these four leaders were arrested, and some of them were they given the death sentence, but later on it was confined to the life imprisonment. Now takes place major changes in China from after Chou En-lai and Mao under the leadership of Deng Xiaoping, who laid a new path for the present day China, whatever the way China has been going for the last 4 decades. And just now I'll be taking 2 or 3 minutes what happened during the cultural period, cultural revolution, that is from 1966 to 1706. Industry was more or less collapsed. Agriculture was under severe stress, as I was saying, because of the famine, because of the wrong policies, and the cultural revolution, and about 50 million people, or let us say minimum is 40. That means 4.5 crores people died in China, especially in the countryside. And public institutions were under the control of Red Guards, and education was in dold drums, and educators, doctors, scientists, they were humiliated, and some of them were forced to leave their institutions, but and also it is a torture and humiliation, killing, which were ruling the Chinese society. And sometimes when these things were happening, some of the leaders of the PLA in the provinces, either they collaborated with these forces, or some of them remained indifferent. So that means one can characterize this struggle as a power struggle between party and the government, and it is government versus ideology, or one can say it is the clash of personalities, or I don't know, my understanding it is a some total of all these things that played a havoc as far as the Chinese society, politics, and economy is concerned. And as I was saying earlier, so then Chinese economy was growing between 3 or 3.5%, but whereas in Indian economists were believing that China was growing not less than at the rate of 10%, because in the West, especially some of the sinologists in America, they were also doing a lot of research, and probably you may be surprised to know that one of the Indians who acquired a PhD from the Harvard University, he collaborated with two Nobel laureates, and it is he who developed actually tried to construct the way Chinese economy was growing. But that was never taken unfortunately seriously in India. So that's why most of us thinking that it is tremendous things were taking place in China, a lot of development. This I'm not saying development was not taking place, but not the way it was projected outside, the way it was constructed yeah, outside China. But later on during Deng period, a lot of literature have coming, and then the people started reassessing what was happening in China during that period. In addition to the positive things, a lot of negative things were also taking place or happening in Chinese society and in China. So once Deng Xiao became the unquestioned leader, because as I was saying, Mao was succeeded by a leader called as Hua Guofeng. He was not that interested, he was also a bit conservative, whatever it may be. But anyway, inventing economy or giving a shape to the Chinese economy was given to Deng Xiaoping. In the 50s, till the beginning of the Cultural Revolution, it was the Deng Xiaoping who was looking after the Chinese economy. But at the time he was removed. Then he was also victim of the Cultural Revolution, and so on and so on. And because of paucity of time, I cannot go into. Probably during the question answer session we can talk about it. And Deng Xiaoping brought in a program called as modernization program or the liberalization program. This major changes were introduced in the 4 sectors. One is called agriculture, second industry, third one is science and technology, and military. I personally consider it is a turning point in the history of China as far as this modernization program was concerned. You take agriculture, so whatever backyard that was there on the plats that were allotted to the families or the individual to the Chinese, they were allowed. The families were allowed to grow whatever they wanted. At one point, actually these the small plots that were considered as the backyard, attached to the plots or the houses, they were producing some 50% of the or to 70% of the national production as far as agriculture was concerned. And another thing is in the agriculture field, and these individuals were allowed to sell their produce in the market. Whatever the money they got, they were allowed to keep that money. They used to send that money in sending their children or giving a better education. They were also purchasing the things that are available in the market. So they may be in the form of the TV or the fridge or the AC or giving a nice shape to the. So that means when there was surplus production on the agriculture front, so then these peasants or the farmers started sending their children to the universities, or the sending their children to the towns for the better and better education. So this is the major reform that took place in the agriculture sector in the rural areas. That is one. Coming to the industry, here we talk a lot about panchayats, panchayat raj, and 73 amendment, 74th amendment. This is more of academic discussion for the paper consumption. But you take example of the Chinese, a sarpanch or the local leader, a party, they can take a decision what factory has to be established, how the land can be utilized. They have nothing to do with the central party or the provincial government. They can take local real sense whatever the Mahatma Gandhi envisioned, panchayat raj, rural people becoming empowered. This happened in China rather than in India. So that's why nobody knows when the elections will be conducted, and all of you are well aware compared to me. But as far as the industry is concerned, so local decisions were taken by the local leaders, and what these things industries can be established either in the province at the local level also. At the same time, the Chinese government also opened its doors for foreign direct investment. Please remember one thing, this money was not coming from the America or the Europe. Please remember this money was invested in China by the overseas Chinese. The Chinese who were living either in Hong Kong or Southeast Asia or United States or the Europe. Lot of foreign direct investment was coming from different parts of the world, and it is the overseas Chinese or the Chinese settled abroad or whom migrated to different parts of the world is one thing. As a result, there was a manufacturing boom. In course of time, China become the global supply chain because of this industrialization. And another thing is also the manufacturing sector has shifted its location from North America and Europe to the China. One, because of cheap labor. The second thing is Chinese government was providing by the China was establishing interpreted, hardly anything happen. It's not just allotment of the land that matters, but what about other things that are necessary to produce goods that can be exported or that can meet the let us say European standards. So that's why here industrialization means urbanization. Industrialization also means modernization. Standard of the life was also going even for the ordinary people. The people started moving from the rural areas to the urban areas. A number of provinces were turned to be the major industrial cities throughout China. And some of these let us say from 80 till almost 2016 or 17, China was growing at the rate of 10% per annum. Cities like Shanghai was growing at the rate of 26% per annum. Some other provinces were going at the rate of 16%. So it is. So that's why some of our economists are arguing now. Suppose if India has to address this inequality or whatever happening in the rural front, at least it has to go for at the rate of 10% per annum. If it grows at the rate of 14% for the next 10 years, yes, most of the problems that are confronted by the Indians living in the poverty and unemployment, all these things can be addressed. But anyway, these are certain projections that were made by the researchers, academicians, not only in India but elsewhere. Also, especially the literature that is coming from America and European this or Indologists. And another thing is science and technology. Here, the major decision that was taken by Deng Xiaoping after assuming office was he sent thousands and thousands of the Chinese students were sent to the American universities and European universities. Thousands. Please remember this thing. They went there. And it was the government, Chinese government, which was extending the helping hand for some of them went, very few. Until later on, they started going on their own. That is altogether a different thing. It established a number of higher educational institutions or the research institution. All of us are hearing about that virology institute that is located in the Wuhan. This was just one institution. Like that, so many institutions were established. A number of new universities were introduced in China, and similarly they established research institutions also. See, to study about America, to study about different European countries, to study about different countries in Africa and India also. And to study the foreign policies and cultures and economy and social aspects of these society, because they were envisioning a new future for themselves after 20 years, 30 years, or 40 years also. So, and higher salaries were provided too. Whether one works or not in university or college, one gets the same salary. If I don't go to the university, I get my salary in India. And what is really happening, that is the most unfortunate thing in Indian academic establishment. If something is happening in developed country, it is this education has become the backbone. You take the Southeast Asian countries, probably you may not believe, they were investing 16% of their expenditure in education. You take Malaysia, Taiwan, South Korea, or Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, and all these countries. Just in 20-25 years, they could achieve whatever the developed countries could achieve because of heavy investment in education. You take, according to an estimation, private source as well as public source, Indians, whether it's a government or we are also investing $16 billion per annum in education. But what is the net result? What are the courses that are offered in the universities or the college? So that's why this is a major challenge even for India. We have to learn from China as far as this aspect is concerned. So that's why it is transfer of technology, but and after especially 21st century, some of these Chinese started returning, who studied, who underwent in training, started coming back to China, started working in that one. So, and they were also given economic incentives, and so that's why whatever we could see in China in the last 20-25 years, it is because of the encouragement and investments that were made in science, in the field of science and technology, and the importance that is given to the construction of the knowledge. This resulted in building world-class infrastructure. They started also promoting Mandarin language abroad. They also started asking their people to get English education, to learn what is happening in other parts of the world. As far as the another modernization program is the military. So that is, they started talking about reducing on quantity. Earlier it was PLA used to have almost 20 lakhs people. But under this modernization program, they started giving more importance to the equipment and introducing new principles. At the same time, they also learned, from their experience. In 1967, when there took place, some sort of skirmish between India and China. It is India, but unfortunately, this was not talked by the Indian press at all. It is Indians which got upper hand in 1960. We want to talk about 1962 because most of the academicians rely on the Maxwell book on India-China war, which characterized it is the Indians who initiated the war, and that's why that man Maxwell talks Indians being responsible for that war. But what happened in 67? Hardly anybody talks. And what Chinese learned in 1979 war of Vietnam, People's War and all that. Chinese also, yes, they defeated the French, and they also defeated the Americans. They fought against these colonialist and imperial forces for almost, let us say, 3 decades. Yeah, from the Second World War till 1975. Imagine 30 long years. So that's why they learned also lessons from this one. So that's why the Vice Chairman Central Military Commission, then also became chairman of the Central Military Commission during Hua Peng's time, as well as when he became unchallenged leader of China. In addition to these things, they also introduced one more thing, that is One China policy, which was strictly enforced. Nobody was allowed to have more than one child, whether it is a male or female. So, while initiating these steps, China also signed an agreement with Britain, and as a result of that one, China got back Hong Kong. And similarly, they also brought pressure on Portugal, and it again Macau, which became part of China. You know that probably you may be watching whatever is happening in Hong Kong. As far as Macau is concerned, it is the world's biggest gambling center in the world. Every day, billions of dollars, the gambling takes place in Macau. Can you imagine gambling happen in a communist country? Yeah, but that is what happens. And see, imagine this. America's that is Las Vegas supposed to be the world's greatest greatest gambling center, but again it is Macau. So I do not know how many of you are familiar with these things. When these things were taking place, then the Cold War ended. So then the Soviet Union also got disintegrated. So then it provided many opportunity for a growing country like China. It also provided opportunities for other countries also. At the same time, it also had thrown challenges to everybody. Since we are talking about China, probably I may be taking Ramagaru, shall I take another 6 or 7 minutes, Andy? Hello? Hello?
Okay, proceed, sir.
Sir.
Okay, sir.
Very
Okay,
nice,
sir.
very
Okay.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, once the Cold War ended, new technologies started entering into the public domain. So we call it as ICT, Information and Communication Technology. See, if all of us are interacting,
5 నిమిషాలు
meeting with
మాట్లాడాలా
each other,
అన్నాడు. నువ్వు వద్దంటే ఎట్లుంటది మరి?
5 minutes కంప్లీట్ చేస్తాను. మీ ఇష్టం అండి, నేను ఎక్కడ
Sir.
ఆపమంటే అక్కడ ఆపుతాను.
No, sir, sir, please.
Yeah.
Sir, sir.
New technologies. And another thing is, the World Trade Organization also. No problem. Feel free. Oh, yeah.
Sir, continue, sir. Please.
Yeah. So World Trade Organization, was, came into force, and it, emphasized on the free trade. So that means, the same rules will be applying, as far as the international trade is concerned for all the things. And, And another thing is, billions of the dollars, moving from one corner of the world to the another corner. Now, another aspect is, people also started moving from the one corner of the world to the other. Probably, here I would like to bring, one thing. If you move to the Gujarat Gully or, Begumpet, there you come across so many Marwadis, Gujaratis, Hindis, and, these people, and, visiting China, visiting, or buying, the products, that are manufactured in China, selling, these things. You take, lead pulp, that is, sold, in Hyderabad or anywhere. So the product, that is manufactured there, it is available for 30, 40, 50 rupees. Or nowadays, you can take, Telangana government started celebrating, kite festival, Earlier, kite was, costing 1 rupee, 2 rupee. Now it is, costing 5,000, 10,000 also. Such a huge thing. Imagine it is not the kite. The principle, that is, behind, the way, kites are, flown. It is here comes, the physics principles. So we don't talk about these things. Why could not our physics department and, our professors and, industries could not, manufacture such, that type of the kites? Or the crackers, that we are using, during, Diwali period? What happened to any industry that is located in Sivakasi here? No, just recollect, these things. So that's why these are the challenges. Actually, for people like, though we boast, a lot. And another thing is, as a result of these things, there arose a new middle class, throughout the world. You take how many Indians started going to America? You take Telangana, almost every family is having somebody or other, irrespective of the social category in America or Europe. When I was, in some position in the university, our students also started going to China as a postdoctoral fellows. From Usmania University. It's not just America, Australia, the New Zealand, and there are good number of our scholars from Telangana state itself, in Korea, in Japan, even in China also. They are getting fellowships, they are working in these research institutions. So that is one. Then preeminence of preeminence of service industry. If you take India's different sectors, it is the service industry that is providing 54% to our GDP. Agriculture contribution is just 17 or 18%. And it's a service sector. It is 54% in India. Again, manufacturing sector is more or less 19% or some such thing. That's all. So that's why with this free trade and other things, it is the service sector that emerged at the global level. And another thing is, as I was talking about, internationalization of higher education. So here I am giving one example. If you take Usman University, there are 5,000 students who have come from about 79 countries studying in Usman University College. Can you imagine that one? You take India. And there are about 600 or around 550 students who are studying in Usman University under the fellowships that were given by the government of India. And another thing, there may be some students we are charging some 1 lakh to 4 lakhs per annum. Do you know how much fee that is paid by our students? 100 rupees, 2,000 rupees. Where is 1 lakh? Where is 100 rupees? Where is 4 lakhs? And where is 1,000 rupees? So students even don't. So we are also making investment, but so the difference is that one. That's why the education has become. Since I am from the academic field, I am also touching these aspects also. And China also joined in the WTO in the year 2000. And for that, America has to make some congressional act. As there once China became member of WTO, America thought China would be a huge market for the American products. But what really happened is according to a commission, America lost about 27 lakhs jobs in the manufacturing sector between 2004 and 2011. 27 lakhs are 2.7 million jobs just in a manufacturing sector. And another thing is that America's trade deficit increased to $337 billion in 2017. Prior to the 2015, it was $350 billion trade deficit. 1,000 millions are 1 billion and please remember 1,000 millions అంటే మన 100 crores మీరు క్యాల్కులేట్ చేసుకోండి. సో దెన్ సో 1 billion is equal to 1,000 million. 1,000 millions అంటే మన 100 crores dollars. So then $337 billion deficit. And so this is how America lost, or most of the countries lost their manufacturing sector to China. And so that's why China is the only country at present which is having surplus trade with almost all the countries. Now please remember one more thing is also here. Every year for the last 12 or the 13 years, China is buying 300 billion worth of the American security bonds. Every year $300 billion worth of. So this one, America is the only country in the world which is having highest public debt. These are a bit complicated also anyway. Just I wanted to bring these things. But how China could do these things? It was keeping its currency under valuation. So that's why America declared that China is a currency manipulator between 2003 and 2013. Once China started investing outside China, once it corrected its exchange value with respect to the dollar, then and Americans removed this phrase that is currency manipulator. As a result of this thing, so that is China grew at the rate of 10% per annum. So then another thing is all these things resulted in the urbanization, modernization, rise of new middle class, and at the same time there also emerged private entrepreneurs as far as the Chinese industry is concerned. You can't imagine an individual or his family owning billions of dollars worth of property in a communist country. But this is a future of the China right now. You take Alibaba, at least we will be listening about that trading company, or Huawei. You take your TVs or computers, laptops, or ACs, Huawei, HUWEI, which are available in Hanamkonda and everywhere, even in Telangana also. And they also started investing this surplus money in different countries. That is, as far as Africa is concerned, they bought or took the lease millions of acres of land, and which was brought under cultivation, and who are working in those lands in Africa. It is not Africans, but it is the Chinese workers who were sent to Africa, who started working in Africa. Similarly, if you move to the Central Asia, it invested heavily in oil and natural gas. That one, and it also emerged as global supply chain. So when its economic interactions and trade was increasing, it wanted to revive old Silk Road or route. That is called one belt, one road. One belt, one road. Just imagine when Genghis Khan of 12th and 13th century and from Mongolia till through Central Asia, then part of China, he went to almost Europe and defeated so many people, or the kings Europe. Just under this one, whatever the China is trying to do, it was just trying to revive old Silk Route, whether it is Asia, whether it is Africa, whether it is Europe also. But in those days, Europe was not that developed. But when it emerged as a major economic power, and it also started making investments in agriculture, industry, in science and technology, and high education. Now Chinese economy is about $13 trillion dollars economy. Earlier I was saying billions. 1,000 billions are 1 trillion. Now it is suppose if you calculate that one, 13 means it is coming to about 130 lakh crores dollars. Then you multiply with 71 or 72 rupees. Then you can imagine how much money China's this. Just simply you have to calculate those things. As a result of this thing, so China became emerged as a very competitive economy, whatever may be the field. Because of its currency manipulation, it was strengthened somewhere between 30% to the 40%. No? So this is how China could emerge as this one. And when it is having the money, it also started purchasing America's public debt. This is what I was saying earlier. Every year, $300 billion worth public debt is purchased by China. And see, just imagine one thing. Probably all of us are very young. In 1973, when the first oil shock took place, these Gulf countries or West Asian countries earned billions of dollars overnight. What did they do with that one? They do not know what to do with that money. So they went to America and Europe, invested their money there. So this money was lent by those banks again to the third world country. But now, as far as the China's economy is concerned, they started investing this way. This is as far as economy is concerned. China is also a soft power. Soft power means they need not be using hard power, that is military. It is the knowledge that is being used to influence the people living in different parts of the world. It is maybe the Chinese culture, Chinese product, Chinese literature, Chinese drama, Chinese movie, or whatever it may. So that means this is also. While growing economically, China talked about 2 or 3 things. One is socialism with Chinese characteristics. It talked about the multipolar world after the end of Cold War. It talked about importance of the Panchashil by maintaining low profile and having closer, cooperative, and cordial relations with everybody, with these things. And it also started strengthening its navy, army, and air force. So that means military also this. So that's why now it started projecting its power at a global level. So with especially in Pacific, in Southeast Asia, in South Asia. So that means through South Asia it is called as developing a number of ports. Pakistan Gwadar port, in Sri Lanka it is Hambantota, in Burma it is called Sting of Perils. So then another thing is it is also trying to make its presence felt in Indian Ocean region, that is from state of Malacca to the state of Hormuz, connecting Africa and Asia. After that it is South Asia, South China Sea, where it is building artificial islands to get access to Pacific Ocean, on which America lives. So that's why some sort of a power struggle is going on in America, between America and China there, and Southeast Asia is concerned trying to flex its muscles there, and trying to control India by making his presence felt in the Indian Ocean, because Indian Ocean is important to transport oil and fuel from the West Asia to China. So that is why it is called as trying to make uh, flex it muscles in order to project its power, whether it's Pacific, whether Indian Ocean, whether let us say the greater Indian Ocean, and so on and so on. So then comes what happens next. It all depends. I'm not an astrologer, but as a student of foreign policy and international politics, so now it is going to be not the responsibility of one or powers, but it is going to be a collective effort. As far as the present leader is concerned, he got elected as a president for life, which never happened anywhere unless it is a monarchy, and this is a major challenge. How he is going to behave, how China is going to behave, it is a $1 billion question. And another thing is, if China misbehaves, how US is going to behave, what steps are going to be initiated by Russia, how Japan is going to react, and what India is going to react, whether it is going to be a combined effort or a group of these states, or whether it is they are going to cooperate with each other against China, or whether they are also going to co-opt China in the broader interest of the whole world. And for that we have to wait and see. I think I can close my talk here. So I started around 6 o'clock. I said 1.5 hours. Now it is 7:30, and I can stop here. If there are any questions, I am very happy to take over those questions. Thank you.
థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్. థ్యాంక్ యూ ప్రొఫెసర్ జేఎల్ఎన్ రావు గారు. సుమారుగా ప్రొఫెసర్ జేఎల్ఎన్ రావు గారు 1:45 సమయం పాటు వారు సుదీర్ఘమైనటువంటి వారి యొక్క విశ్లేషణ లోపల చైనా క్రీస్తు పూర్వం దగ్గర మొదలుకుంటే నేటి సమయం వరకు చైనాలో జరుగుతున్నటువంటి పరిణామాల గురించి చాలా స్పష్టంగా వారు చైనాలో ఉండేటువంటి విషయాలను మన కళ్ళ ముందు పెట్టారు. వారు ముఖ్యంగా చైనా అనేటువంటి దానికి ఒక సొంత భాష అనేటువంటిది, భాష పట్ల అభిమానము అనేటువంటిది ఉంటుంది అనేది చెప్పుకుంటూ మొదలుకొని అట్లాగే చైనా లోపల ప్రపంచంలోనే మొట్టమొదటిసారిగా ప్రభుత్వ ఉద్యోగాల నియామకానికి మొట్టమొదటిసారిగా చైనాలోనే ప్రవేశ పరీక్షలను ఇంటర్వ్యూలను పెట్టింది కూడా చైనా దేశమే అనేటువంటి విషయాన్ని కూడా ప్రొఫెసర్ జేఎల్ఎన్ రావు గారు చెప్పుకుంటూ ఆ దేశంలో అనేక మంది తత్వవేత్తలు ఉన్నారు. ముఖ్యంగా ఆర్ట్ ఆఫ్ వార్ అనేటువంటి పుస్తకం ఏదైతే రాశారో వారు మొత్తంగా సుంజు లేదా సంజు అనేటువంటి పేరుతో ఆర్ట్ ఆఫ్ వార్ అనేటువంటి పుస్తకంలో యుద్ధ కళ సార్ ఎగ్జాక్ట్లీ ఆర్ట్ ఆఫ్ వార్ అనేటువంటి పుస్తకంలో యుద్ధాల్లో ఎలా జయించవచ్చు, ఇతరులను ఎలా ఓడించవచ్చు అనేటువంటి విషయాన్ని కూడా వారు తెలియజెప్తూనే ప్రపంచంలో అనేక భాషల లోపల ఈ పుస్తకాన్ని అనువాదం చేయడం జరిగింది. ఇవాళ మొత్తం ఇప్పుడు మేనేజ్మెంట్ టెక్నిక్స్ లోపల ఆర్ట్ ఆఫ్ వార్ అనేటువంటి పుస్తకాన్ని ఉపయోగిస్తున్నారు ప్రపంచ దేశాల లోపల అనేటువంటి విషయాన్ని కూడా ప్రొఫెసర్ రావు గారు చెప్పారు. ముఖ్యంగా చైనా వారు 1870 సంవత్సరంలో 2 విద్యార్థులను అమెరికా దేశానికి చదువుకోవడానికి పంపిన విషయంతో పాటు ఇవాళ ప్రపంచ దేశాల నుండి చైనాకు కూడా ఆ యొక్క సాంకేతిక పరిజ్ఞానాన్ని తీసుకొచ్చినటువంటి విషయాన్ని కూడా చాలా స్పష్టంగా చెప్పారు. ముఖ్యంగా 1949 సంవత్సరంలో చైనా భారత్ మధ్యలో పంచశీల అగ్రిమెంట్ జరిగింది అనేటువంటి విషయాన్ని చెప్తూనే ఇవాళ చైనా అనేటువంటిది వ్యవసాయ రంగంలో కానీ, పారిశ్రామిక రంగంలో కానీ, ఇతర మిలిటరీ రంగంలో కానీ అభివృద్ధి సాధించింది అనేటువంటి విషయాన్ని తెలియజెప్తూనే చైనా దేశాన్ని ఇవాళ ఎఫ్డిఐలను, ఫారెన్ డైరెక్ట్ ఇన్వెస్ట్మెంట్ ను కూడా చైనా దేశం ఆహ్వానిస్తుంది. అందులో భాగంగానే ఇవాళ అభివృద్ధి దిశగా చైనా పోతుంది అనేటువంటిది కూడా ఇవాళ చెప్పుకుంటూనే ప్రపంచంలో అనేక దేశాలు ఇవాళ చైనాకి వచ్చేసి పరిశ్రమ స్థాపిస్తున్నాయంటే దానికి కారణం అక్కడ తక్కువ స్థాయి అంటే చీప్ లేబర్ అనలేము కానీ మానవ వనరుల లభ్యత చాలా చీప్ గా ఉంటుంది. తర్వాత వనరులను ఇవ్వడం అనేటువంటి జరుగుతుంది. అందుకే అక్కడ పరిశ్రమలు అనేటువంటి స్థాపిస్తున్నటువంటి విషయాన్ని తెలియజెప్తూనే ప్రొఫెసర్ రావు గారు అనేకమైనటువంటి నేటి సమాజంలో జరుగుతున్నటువంటి విషయాన్ని కూడా చెప్పారు. వారికి మా తెలంగాణ జనవేదిక తరఫున ప్రత్యేకమైనటువంటి ధన్యవాదాలు సార్. మీకు మరొక్కసారి మా వేదిక తరఫున ప్రత్యేక ధన్యవాదాలు సార్. ఇప్పుడు ప్రొఫెసర్ సంజీవ్ రెడ్డి గారిని మాట్లాడవలసిందిగా ఆహ్వానిస్తున్నాను. ప్రొఫెసర్ సంజీవ్ రెడ్డి గారు.
Thank you, Srinivas.
సార్
At the outset, I express my very great indebtedness to Sir.
We are colleagues.
He is my teacher, he is my friend, he is also my teacher. We worked together on various committees. So that way I am a colleague, but I am extremely grateful to you, sir, for capturing from micro to macro the cultural, social, economic, political aspects with related to China. It is a illuminating lecture. You have not taken even a single minute break in your lecture. It shows your understanding of China and its role in the world politics. I know, sir, time is one constraint we all have to agree with, because yes sir, China, to discuss China in 1.5 hours is a very difficult task. You have really illuminated us on what China is. You have left on a note. On a really scary note, I would say, as to the role of China in future. And you have raised very important questions as to what the role of America would be, and what the role of Japan would be, and also what the role of Russia would be. And very importantly for us, as to what the role of India would be. How India is going to manage with the rising power of China in terms of soft power. You have said that China has deviated completely from a people's power to a soft power. And that is very, though it may sound now as a matter of conjecture, but that is going to be the reality in the coming days. So we have been thoroughly illuminated by your lecture, sir. I'm stopping here because our president has also tried to sum up your intricate details of your lecture, and he is also short of time. He is a very meticulous person. He makes a note of everything, and he has summed up your lecture in a very nutshell. But that is not doing justice to what you have said, sir. I don't want to further comment upon your lecture, because there are many other participants who may have a lot of other questions. So with this note, I thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Sanjay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I will now call upon James Praveen. Sir, James Prashant. James.
Hello, am I audible?
James Prashant, please. Yeah, please.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Srinivas. Thank you, Ram Garu. Thank you so much, Professor Rao. It was given us a tremendous sweep of China, talking on its culture, its society, the history, its fronts, and moving from ancient to its near history, and strategy, and the geopolitics. concerning all about China. A fantastic sweep of all these elements within a short time, and it was really fantastic to hear you. It was a lot put in together. Thank you so much for this. And actually, I have regarding the subject. I mean, I'm trying to formulate my question because there are too many questions to ask. Not just one. There are too many things to ask, and I'm trying to figure out which one to ask. In the China is notorious for undermining and wiping out major economies. So in a form of low profile exploitation, and also in the context, China being a revisionist power, a revanchist power. It is, I mean, of course, everybody's concerned where it is moving, where it is heading, and so also the Silk Road, while it is in a way the Mongol method, but also it could also be the how the British colonized the world using so many ports. I think they have just simply copying that system again. And where would you think their ambitions would end in terms of they being a successor to the present Chinese government? They feel they're a successor to the Qing Empire, the Qing Empire, and would it be more of an ideological exploitative move on other nation states, or would it be more territorial wise? So how do you see that, sir? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, James. And now, Pravin Sagar garu. Pravin Sagar.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Especially thanks to Ramana for having a wonderful session on this China topic. Actually, JLN Rao sir has given very good lecture on this. But in the recent past, this is the only lecture I have heard very positive things about China. But however, they are true. But my question is, my question is like, I mean, China is one of the superpowers. I know. When it compared to America, it is competing with America in all the aspects, not only financially, military-wise, and technologically as well. But when it comes to transparency, so compared to America, China is not that transparent. Being it said that it's a, I mean, the party and political system in China is not so transparent as America. So why is it so? Also, so they are planning to target India more in different aspects like technology and in terms of globalization part. So India is competing with China compared to other countries. So why is it so happening? I mean, what is the aim of China in terms of development aspect? Is it, I mean, does it want to conquer the whole world, or is it just part of development game?
Thank you, Pravin. Thank you, Pravin Sagar. Sir, one more question, sir, please. One question. Dr. Lakshmi Prasad garu.
Hello?
Dr. Lakshmi Prasad garu.
Yeah,
Sir,
Vipishna?
yeah, please.
Yeah, good evening.
Right.
Good evening, sir. Sir,
Good evening.
Professor Jailen Rao garu and Sanjay Reddy gariki very thankful to you, sir. Because of Sanjay Reddy, you presented very well, sir. Sir, the main topic is you talked about the China. What I want to know is the comparative study of the India and China. Then probably you need a complete discussion to compare with India and China. The next time, if it is possible, make it do it, sir. Thank you. Yeah. No. This is the time to have to compare with the China, not with America. Because almost China and India, they liberated in the same time, the same time. But the development of the China is nowhere compared with in India, because there is no poverty. There is an equality. There is a nationalization of the land. There is a nationalization of the education. There is nationalization of the property. What we need, what the public, what the human needs, that only, sir. That is the main goal, the main achievement of the country. That must be a main goal of the country. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
సార్ థ్యాంక్ యూ డాక్టర్ లక్ష్మీ ప్రసాద్ గారు. సార్ జయలన్ రావు సార్.
Okay. Only 3 questions. I'm really lucky.
ఓకే సార్.
Yeah.
క్రాంతి గారు. యా ప్లీజ్ సార్. క్రాంతి.
Sir, a very good evening. It was really nice listening to you, sir. You have really given a very good understanding about how China has come to this level and what could be the threats which the neighboring countries in particular and the world as such can expect from China. So from my end, I'll be asking a question with respect to the historical context, sir. So the tripartite agreement between Tibet, British and the China, which comes as this McMahon line, and then also the relevance of Johnson line.
On the Johnson line that we have treated Aksai as part of India.
Your voice is not audible, gentlemen.
I'm sorry. Just a moment, sir. Hello. Yes, sir.
యా ప్లీజ్.
So basing on the Johnson line that we have taken Aksai as part of India, and so China claims power over that or claims that territory, and right now it is administered by China. That's one point. So in this context, what were the triggering points for the 1962 war of India and China?
సార్ థ్యాంక్ యూ క్రాంతి. సార్ ప్రొఫెసర్ గారు.
నేను
సార్ ఒక్క నిమిషం సార్. నరసింహారావు గారు సార్. ప్రెసిడెంట్ గారు
సార్ ప్లీజ్ సార్.
ఇంకేమన్నా క్వశ్చన్స్ ఉంటే రాము సార్, ఇంకేమన్నా క్వశ్చన్ అంటే సార్ అన్ని క్వశ్చన్స్ ఒకసారి 1 by 1 ఆన్సర్ చేసుకుంటూ పోతాడు, క్లబ్ చేసుకుంటాడు.
అయిపోయింది సార్. 4 క్వశ్చన్స్ అంతే అయిపోయినాయి సార్. 4 క్వశ్చన్స్ ఓన్లీ సార్. ప్లీజ్ సార్.
ఓకే. ఎంత టైం తీసుకోవాలని చెప్పండి. నేను దీనికి
సార్ ఒక 5 minutes లోపల 5 minutes 10 minutes లోపల అయిపోయింది.
10 minutes. ఓకే. అందుకొరకు ఎందుకంటే మీరు చెప్పేది ఎందుకంటే టైం. నేను కింద నుంచి పైకి వస్తానండి. I'll be starting with the 4th question.
Kranti Kumar.
Yeah, whatever it may be, it is something, one is related to McMahon line and, another is, Oksai Chin. See, as far as this, boundary between, India and, China is concerned, see, when, see this, Britain was expanding, in Asia. Russia was also trying to expand, itself in Asia.
Yes.
So that's why it wanted to have some sort of a buffer state or a buffer zone as far as their competition is concerned. So that's why in British, when they were ruling India, they had sent a man whose name is Colonel Young Husband. That's why it is known as Colonel Young Husband's expedition to Tibet. And for that, as you were saying, it is a tripartite agreement, and for which when China was invited, China could not send its representative to that Simla conference, but it was signed by the Tibetan representative, and it represented this one. But there is also some complexity to this. Chinese said, since this line was drawn in the eastern sector by the colonialists, they said they will not recognize this one. Please remember one aspect to this one. McMahon line is not only the border line between India and China, it also a border line between Burma and China. So that's why China recognized McMahon line, between Burma and India. So that's why one of our negotiations, one of our politician, how come you are refusing to recognize? The lady who was the deputy foreign minister of China was not even aware of this thing. She tried to look back to to her bureaucrat, and they whispered something in her ear. Yeah, we'll be talking about it a later stage. That is the one thing. See here, if one has to put in diplomatic terms. Here, after you also raise why there was a war. Probably, my understanding is when the power struggle was going on between Mao and other things, probably to prove himself in that struggle. And another thing is, from 54 onwards, we were raising, that Chinese maps, showing certain parts of our territory as part of this. So they were giving different answers at that time. So when we sent our people to the border, either they were arrested, they were detained, and later on as a result of negotiations. After the war, what exactly happened was, to have a bargain with India, they were raising this McMahon line issue in the eastern sector, but they have withdrawn unilateral. But at the same time, as far as the Oxide chain is concerned, and till recently that was not a contested area at all. In the war itself, they occupied the certain territories that are belonging to India, and this was never projected as far as our political establishment is concerned, as far as our academic discussions were concerned. So that's why it is a simply bargaining chip. Why the Oxide chain means, see, through Oxide chain, China constructed Karakoram highway to link Tibet and Xinjiang. So, and whatever the activity that India has taken up in the last few years, so that activity was intensified, and we are laying down the road. And wherever there's incident that took place on the Galvan Valley, so that means, so that was just 7.5 kilometers from the line of actual control, which was very near to that Karakoram highway. So please recollect one more thing. This part was given by Pakistan to China. Suppose if India is going to claim this way, what will happen to Tibet and this one, Xinjiang province? So frankly speaking, another thing is also now it laid down a number of roads to connect itself with Tibet, and it also tried to lay down a number of roads in the Xinjiang. Till middle of the 18th century, even Xinjiang was not a part of China. It was for the first time, after defeating the Mongols, the Chinese leaders under the King Qing dynasty incorporated this Xinjiang as a part of China. So that's why now the major issue is, as I was saying in my lecture, Tibet is concerned, it is the resources. So that is water, as far as their agriculture is concerned. And sometime back, China also wanted to take away the Tibetan waters even to the Gobi Desert that is located in the northern part. Then there comes Xinjiang. Xinjiang is important strategically for China because it is just next to the Central Asia, where lot of natural gas reserves are available. For its economic growth, China also requires that one. That is one thing. So that's why now, and millions and millions of the Han Chinese were relocated in the Xinjiang province. Whoever is opposing the Chinese culture or Chinese language, now again they are trying to impose on the these Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang. That is one thing. So that's why for a contentious issue, for the Chinese, it is not a contentious issue. and probably some other time, we'll be talking about as far as oxygen, whatever is happening, right now, and the way things are projected, that one for the time being. Compared to another thing, compared to study on India and China, probably after some time, if your organizers, invite me, I don't mind.
Definitely, sir.
For that, I have to collect, lot of information, certain things, yeah, I know, but other things, I have yet to collect. So then, is China is trying to, if we make a comparison, why we are not able to do what the China could do? My understanding is we are greatly influenced by the Western ideas. And as far as the Indian feeling, now probably because of mobility, because of interactions, because of investments and so on and so on, that has been happening from 1990, when thanks to our PV Narasimha. Had PV Narasimha Rao not became the Prime Minister, I'm having a question mark whether this could have been initiated at all. Could have been initiated when I do not have any answer for that. So because of these development, now we started feeling that is one India in spite of our differences. One is our political system. Second thing is now the way bureaucracy online network is concerned, you may be shocked to know 90% of the content that is available online is either it is semi-pornographic or pornography. Everything is unavailable. Some of these, especially adolescents, may not be in a position to what to read, what not to, what to see, what not. So that's why this is. But now there, Google is under the total control of the Chinese government. So that's why this is going to pose a major problems for whoever is having 10 years children. Now, okay, all of us are thinking, but they do not have the discipline. This is the major issue even in American society also. So that's why, and the technology is changing very fast. Who is taking the decisions, what technology has to be used for what purpose? You take this, why Indian government banned so many apps, and nowadays all of us are getting some fraud calls also related to the banking sector, related to your information, all these things. But there, since ours is democratic country, since we are aspiring for greater freedoms and greater liberty, it has to be and coordinated with the technology that is entering into our lives. Earlier, war means was confined only to the military people. Now, whether it is violence, whether it is one is gun that has entered into our bedroom. I may not be understanding in one way, you are maybe understanding in another way. So, and wife, children, and parents may be watching the same thing. Children may be influenced differently, parents may be different in other. So that is another problem. But as far as the politics is concerned, economy is concerned, the way we have to understand the other cultures, the way we have to envision our future, probably the way, at least we Indians have to, let us say, how we have to impart and some sort of a discretion as far as the children are concerned. And here, nationalism does not mean jingoism. Praising only ourselves, criticizing everybody else. Some sort of a balance to make our understanding a balanced manner. This is one thing. Second question, great why Chinese not transparent whatever they are doing. See, this is how the Chinese have built up. and especially in the communist system, see, everything is not transparent. No, so that's why every year People's National Congress is held. Some decisions are not taken at the central level. They are not implemented at the provincial level and local level. It is the party that plays a major role along with the technocrats whenever the decisions are made. See, why they are making India as a say they are not making India as a target. No, Chinese as a people. It all depends who is occupying the position. I think the present leader, that is Xi Jinping. He is a nationalist. He is a communist. Probably he is some sort of a megalomania. So that's why in my talk I was also saying he nominated himself as the president for life for China. How long he is going to? So this never happened even in communist countries. One or two cases may be different. And prior to him, whatever was happening politically, it smoothly everything was happening. It was a collective decision. But here, whatever the information we are having, I am also having. I think I am also having certain reservations. The way he wants to project Chinese power at the global level. That's why he is trying to play or trying to open fronts. Almost on all its borders, economically, politically, strategically, militarily, in every. Whether he is going to succeed, I am having my own doubts, because in the human history, never a leader like him succeeded. That coming to the first one, wiping out. Another thing is the whole world has committed to one thing, that is free trade. Free trade means wherever the best goods are available at cheaper price, people are preferring. Suppose if I have to use whatever the Truman said, sorry, please again don't misunderstand me. Patriotism is the last resort of a scoundrel. Suppose if I am a patriot, whether I am going to pay more price when some other good is available cheaply. Suppose if a particular good is manufactured in my village for, let us say, 100 rupees, if same good is available which is manufactured in my neighboring village for the 50 rupees, which one I am going to prefer? Just because it is manufactured my own caste fellow or my own village fellow, who we are going to? First thing, nowadays we are going to talk about quality. That is one. Second thing is durability. So there, since the manufacturing sector shifted to China, since raw material is cheaply available there, because of their trade policy, economic policy, I cannot go into those aspects right now. That's why they are. And please remember one more thing is also, whatever is manufactured China, all those products are not qualitatively better. Even if a price is a little higher, so depending upon the quality, and you may be going for this thing. And another thing, Americans, while reading some literature, now a new trend has is entering into the way people are making decisions. See, now as far as certain products are concerned in America, people are getting ready to pay more price if a product is manufactured by a human being. One of the questionnaires raised why this silk. Silk was for the first time made in that one. Now it is known. I do not have the time to talk about how silk has entered into other countries. Maybe at some other time I may be talking about that one. So that's why it is the quality, it is the durability, and it is the economic policy, trade policy, and also the people's preferences. So that's why a combination of the factors are making China to emerge as the global economic power. So in my lecture, I was talking about how it was, manipulating its currency, towards.
Yes.
Since, the currency rate is, fixed, in China by the government, which is not the case, with any other country. Depending upon the demand, that currency is having at the global level, the currency exchange rate is fixed by the international financial agencies and, the global, traders, and also the market, the products are having at the global. So many factors, generally will be determining the exchange value of a country's currency. No, then you can raise the question, why, American dollar in demand? So immediately after the war, American government made an announcement. So that means whoever, brings, American dollar into America, that America can give, the gold, equivalent to the dollar. No other country in the world had, that policy. After the first oil shock, America disbanded, that policy. But in spite of that one, and only two currencies, that are accepted in the global. One is American dollar, second is the British pound. But what is that? Now it is called, euro, as far as their trade and, exchange purposes are called. So that way there are so many factors, that are making, China to play its role. But if it is, plays a positive role, none of us are having any objections or having a none of us feel, it is, threatening or adopting the bullying, tactics. But, when we are having a certain suspicion and when we doubt, its intention, then the problems comes. So now that's why I can only say in one sentence, it is the responsibility of China to clarify, the doubts, that are raised by the different countries,
Yes.
officially and unofficially. And I think, I can, stop here. Probably I can go on because, questions are such and, they are having, different,
Thank you.
aspects.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. One last question from Swati Misra.
Please.
Swati. Hello, Swati, are you there?
Hello.
Yeah, please, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, Professor. Thank you for the wonderful insight that you gave us about China, and especially the unbiased review that we decided.
Madam, your voice is not audible, please.
So, am I clear?
Yeah, now it is clear. Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, so I was saying thank you for the insight that you gave us about the China, the culture, the economy. So Mao Zedong, he was vocal about having more civil rights, and that's what he founded through communism.
Yeah. You're talking about the civil rights, please?
Yeah, she was talking about Mao and the civil rights.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's only, ma'am, it's only about civil rights? Hello?
The idea of communism that Mao had, is it still prevalent or did it get lost with the successors?
Yeah. Yeah. Is that question, is your question over complete, madam?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, here, see, when, leaders, mobilize the people, they may be talking about the freedoms of the individuals, groups, and the communities. But the history shows us that, when, one talks about, communism or the communist rule, or a communist party establishes its, regime in any country, in the name of, addressing, economic inequalities, they may be initiating, certain, steps. So that is whenever they talk about equality, they generally talk about establishing economic equality in the society between the individuals, between the among the groups and among the communities. But when we see or analyze the result of their policies, instead of establishing the equality, whatever may be the time, their policies resulted in creating a lot of inequality. That's why they say generally whatever is not available, generally they promise that can be shared. Somebody was saying that one when I was reading something a week back or so. When it comes to the political equality, they said, say as far as the ideology is concerned, once the state appears, once the economic issues are addressed, they generally assume political equality, all types of the equalities are automatically addressed. The major flaw as far as this ideology is concerned, it never took or taken or takes into consideration of human nature. See, if one analyzes the human history, the human nature did not undergo any change at all. So that's why the first 5,000 years of the human history could produce only one Buddha or one Jesus. That's all. Suppose it never produced number of Buddhas or number of Jesus at all. If there are only human beings, at least personally, I can consider they are the only human beings who practiced, who taught, who followed, and who implemented, who respected all the human beings in a similar manner, in an equal manner. So, but as far as the modern society is concerned, though we talk about these things, when one talks about equality, it is between the richest man, most knowledgeable man, and himself also. When it talks about himself and others, hardly one takes that into cognizance, and but theoretically speaking, yes, these things are constructed. So that's why all types of the exploitation, all sort of the torture, atrocity. Nowadays, these things need not be physical and violent, but sometimes it can be psychological also. During the Cultural Revolution, on the basis of whatever Mao said, the party, yeah, or the ideologues just implemented in the name of whatever you are talking about. So that's why they never generally try to implement the way they are talking as far as civil liberties are concerned, or civil rights of the people are concerned. That is my understanding after reading not just China, but even if one talks about Cambodia, the revolution that took place in 75 and 1978, that regime physically liquidated 1/3 population of that country. Out of 75 lakhs, 25 lakhs people were physically liquidated by the Pol Pot regime. But anyway, later on another leader came, and that's why the Chinese are now trying to reassess their history. So that's why I could not touch whatever happened during the Tiananmen Square. So then especially this issue, equality, the freedom and democracy, these issues were raised by the university students and some of the academicians. Then they came to the road. They were trying whatever they are trying to do. They're trying to link themselves with the world. They were using the satellite technology, but it was brutally suppressed by at the time Deng Xiaoping was there. So that means here what I wanted to say was for them it is economic growth, economic equality were more important compared to the civil liberties or the political rights. And here and they may be bringing some changes, tinkering here and there, But no, the way we are understanding, civil rights and human liberties, I think this is alien to the ideology itself, though they talk a lot about these things. These are the conclusions I can draw from, not just from Asia, even from the East European communist societies or the leaders and so and so. Thank you very much, please.
థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్, థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్. మనోజ్ రెడ్డి గారు ఏమైనా మాట్లాడతారా మీరు? మనోజ్ రెడ్డి గారు ప్లీజ్. మనోజ్ రెడ్డి గారు.
పురుషోత్తమరావు గారికి నమస్కారాలు తెలుపుతున్నాను. Very splendid evening, sir, today by Professor JLN Rao garu. One small saying by Mao Tse-tung, sir. Atom bomb is a paper tiger which the US reactionaries used to scare people. It looks terrible, but in fact it's not. This was the quote said by the Mao. He was in the power at that time. That seems to be real. It's going to be true in this present situation, sir. Throwing the invisible virus to the whole world, it almost took the whole world into its hands, sir. What I personally feel is, and of course it's going to be the mysterious power in coming days. And really thank you so much for your splendid from micro to macro level, as Sanjeev Reddy garu said, and he was been a helping hand to our Telangana Jana Vedika and to our Ramanna. And thank you so much, Ramanna, for a beautiful meeting you have given to all the participants today. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
ఇక్కడ మీరు అన్నదానికి Mao did not say whatever you say as far as the use of the nuclear weapons are not with respect to America. He said this, with respect to the Soviet Union, because in 1964 only China conducted its, atomic, tests. So then, after 1959, Soviet Union started, withdrawing, its, technocrats. When there emerged differences between Soviet Union and, this one. No, prior to that one, Soviet Union, promised that it will be sharing, technology related to the construction of the nuclear reactors and the nuclear bomb. So then, it promised. But once the differences emerged, then the Soviet Union had stopped all that program and withdrawn, this one. And in that context, whatever you were saying, Mao said this. So then, when Mao was talking about power coming through the barrel of the gun and all these things, that may violence, whatever it may be. So then, it is Nehru who raised this thing. See, India's understanding was that Khrushchev said that one. If a nuclear war takes place between the socialist states and the capitalist states, nuclear weapons are not going to discriminate whether one is a socialist or a capitalist. Nuclear weapons cannot kill only the capitalists, and the socialists are going to remain. So then, Mao said, okay, if there is a nuclear war between China or Soviet Union, let us say, or America and China. Let us say, if you knew how many people can be killed in a nuclear war. Suppose at that time China was having about 600 or 700 million people. That means around 70 crores people also. Even if America uses or the Soviet Union uses nuclear weapons, so then China is going to lose about 300 million people or 400 million people or 30 or the 40 crores. If China also uses its nuclear weapons, whole America is going to wipe out or the whole Soviet Union is going to be wiped out. Then who are going to remain? Only it is the Chinese. Then the Chinese can occupy the whole world. It is only going to be one country, that is China. No, in that sense, he was saying. That means he wanted to send one message. Sometimes don't take whatever the leaders say in a literary sense. That say China is ready to face even for the nuclear war. not that they really absorb China. See, just here I would like to give one example. You know that one B-52 bomber. So during the Vietnam War, Vietnamese peasants and farmers with their little technology and that one that was provided by the Soviet Union, they shot down so many B-52 bombers. One B-52 bomber can carry the payload that was equal to the power. All the weapons that were used from 1939 to 45 by all the nations during Second World War. Plus the atomic weapons that were used by United States of America against Japan. So that if really Americans try to use those things, China will not be there. It is not just whole world can be wiped out. So that's why here I cannot go to the best brains in the world. In the 60s they were working how nuclear war can be won. That's what is called as a nuclear war game that were constructed in the universities. They are also carried out simulation programs in the labs also. So that's why please never take that into consideration in the literary sense. Coming to the second aspect, yes. So now, this is some time back I was interacting with one of the military people. Every year, some of us will be going to their meeting, there. Whatever the aircraft carriers, any nation is having, whether it is China, America, or European nations, or Soviet Union, Russia, present day Russia. What is the use of these nuclear weapons or aircraft carriers, bombers, and 10 lakh soldiers or 50 lakh soldiers or 5 lakh soldiers? What is this thing? An invisible virus. Please remember, mana Telugu channels krimi ani చేస్తున్నాయి. అంతకంటే మన దౌర్భాగ్యం ఇంకొకటి లేదు. అందుకొరకే ఇవాళ రేపు ఏ టీవీ ఛానల్ నమ్మాలని అది చెప్పేటోళ్ళు ఎవరు? వీళ్ళకి అడగను రాదు, ఆ సైన్స్ తెలియదు, వాళ్ళకి ఏం తెలుస్తుందండి? ఇవాళ రేపు ఇక్కడ ఇనాగరేషన్ మూలక అక్కడ క్రికెట్ మ్యాచ్ అన్ని అడుగుతారు. మీకు పెళ్ళైంది అంటారు, మీకు పిల్లలు పుట్టినారా అని అంటారు సినిమా యాక్టర్. వాళ్ళు మనలాంటి మనుషులు కదా, ఇట్లాంటి యాంకర్స్ మనకు ఉంటారు. ఏం చెప్తారో మనకు తెలియదు. క్రిమి అని అంటారు. ఇది సామాన్య ప్రజలు క్రిమి అని అనుకుంటే ఏం చేయాలి? ఓ క్రిమి, మనం చాలా క్రిములను చూస్తున్నాం కదా. బట్ there is a difference, lot of difference between bacteria and virus. Virus కు ఏంటిది పైన అప్పర్ పార్ట్ ఏదైతే వాటి కొమ్ములు అంటున్నారు కదా, దే ఆర్ కాల్డ్ రిసెప్టర్. ఆ రిసెప్టర్ ఉండేది ఏంటిది అని అంటే బ్యాక్టీరియా, దట్ ఈస్ ప్రోటీన్ మెటీరియల్. ఆ ప్రోటీన్ మెటీరియల్ హ్యూమన్ బాడీకి పోతే ఇట్ ఎక్స్పాండ్స్ అండ్ ఇట్ సక్స్ different energies that are there in the human body. ఈ డిఫరెన్స్ అండర్స్టాండ్ చేసుకోకుండా ఏదట. సో దట్ ఈస్ a virus. So but nowadays more or less every except WHO Director General, it's human made virus. ఇక్కడ my understanding, ఇక్కడ మీరు అడిగిన దానికి నేను కొంచెం elaborate. It may be manufactured in China. Please don't think it is only the Chinese who are responsible for this thing. వైరాలజీ ఇన్స్టిట్యూట్ చైనాలో వుహాన్ ఏదైతే ఉందో, ఇండియాలో నుంచి కూడా మనకు ఒక వైరాలజీ ఇన్స్టిట్యూట్ ఉంది, దట్ ఈస్ లొకేటెడ్ ఇన్ నాగాలాండ్. అక్కడ కూడా ఆ ఇన్స్టిట్యూట్ లో మన ఇండియన్ సైంటిస్టులు కూడా కొంతమంది పోయి పనిచేసి వచ్చినారు. అండ్ అనదర్ who are investing in that institute, probably they were conducting some research. And it is American private companies who must have pumped millions of dollars into that research institutes, and probably some of the scientists must have been bribed, and probably so as a result somehow that virus must have escaped from the lab. So that's why it is that whatever is happening throughout the world, మన తెలుగులో ఒకటి ఉంది, అస్త్రం ఉపయోగించడమే కాదు దాన్ని వెనుకకు తీసుకోవడం కూడా. మన ఏది ఈ కథలలో ఉంటది, సమారం కూడా తెలియాలని. Probably that is what that is my only understanding. Whatever is happening, probably Chinese government may not be aware of whatever was happening in the lab, because it is the Chinese who collaborated, it is the Canadians who collaborated, it is again, Americans, scientists also collaborated. Somebody, maybe a small group of people must have collaborating with each other. They may be the Chinese, Canadians, French, or the Americans, anybody else. We do not have that information. Probably it may be known to China, may not be known to the Chinese government or the American government. I don't think, I suspect, probably Chinese government may not be aware of this thing. It may be the handiwork of the Western scientists, or maybe some Asian scientists. I'm not, but money definitely must have come from the West. Please remember that one. So somehow it escaped from the lab. It failed because the political system China is having, it is able to control. We have seen so many Snapchat, the way Chinese were enforcing it laws. Some time back, one of my students was saying there. Suppose right now I'm having a student working in Beijing itself. He's saying if you step out of your house within 1 or 2 minutes, some military man or the policeman will come to you. How come you could come out of this thing? So that sort of the surveillance system Chinese government is having. Even if you are making a stepping out of your home or flat also. No country in the world is having, including America, is having that sort of the technology, except China. So that's why, so whatever the way, and another thing is, my hunch is probably I'm exceeding my limit. So probably I think, whatever the way we are constructing the knowledge, this virus is throwing a major challenge, the way knowledge is constructed, especially after the first World War, that is 1918 Spanish flu. So that's why West was only talking about vaccine, but India, some of the doctors or some scientists, whatever, whoever they may be, are now Asia, even including Americans, they are also talking about what that one, immunity. What happened to the immunity? Why they did not talk about the immunity in the West so far? Why only they are talking about? And who is having the immunity? Nowadays they are saying not to use air conditioners. And that the major problem is the way urbanization has been going on in the world. Again, it is no concept that was constructed in the post-World War period as a result of the industrialization. So that's why it is not the question of a vaccine or the immunity, but the way knowledge is constructed, whether it is a missionary or the role of a missionary in the human life, whether it is again let us say what type of the life an individual has to lead, whether one has to kill everybody for his survival, for a society. One of the questionnaire was raising this question. Whether if I have to survive, whether I have to kill all other creatures, all other animals, all the trees. Now that it is the nature, at least as far as the Indian understanding is concerned, including tribals, including the so-called illiterates, they say they think the human life revolves around the nature. But the way knowledge is constructed, the Western science said man has to achieve control over the nature. Nature, everything is for that science is used. That does not mean there are no scientists who are working, who are thinking in these lines. When I was a student, I came across a particular book. He was a particle physicist whose name was Top. The book that was written by him was Top Physics, that is available in the market. Another book who tried to combine economic ideas, politics, sociology, and science is Turning Point. That book is also available. Another thing is Uncommon Wisdom. These are the 3 books that I read as a student, written by a physicist whose name is Fritjof Capra. He's an Austrian physicist. So this is how one has to probably expose oneself to the different, the way knowledge is constructed rather than specializing in one's own field. And so that is what exactly a student, an engineering student in America studies philosophy. A man doing double major in life sciences studies philosophy. He studies English literature. He studies Sanskrit literature. So this is, actually the human effort, but unfortunately, one of the questionnaires raised why this is not. In the last 70 years, we try to root out the roots of the knowledge in India. That is how whatever somebody says, we started simply believing it in the name of modernization, in the name of English education. Probably we have to learn a lot from those illiterate people. And recently I purchased some books, the way medicine was developed, the way herbal plants was used by the tribals. This book was written by a man who worked in different parts of India as a government of India employee, who lived with tribals for almost 4 decades. Girijana Vaidya Sarvasam, that is published in Telugu also, because I am sharing the knowledge this way. Since you raised that question, whether it is a creamy or whatever it may be, but it is that's why this virus is throwing challenge to the way knowledge is constructed by the so-called highly educated people. That does not mean there are no people who are talking about this, dealing with these aspects, and doing research in the West, India, everywhere else. Probably they have to get they have to be in the limelight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్, థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్, థ్యాంక్ యూ. తెలంగాణ జనవేదిక జూమ్ ఆన్లైన్ మీటింగ్ కి విచ్చేసి 21వ శతాబ్దకు సంక్లిష్ట శక్తిగా చైనా అనేటువంటి అంశం పైన కీలకోపన్యాసం ఇచ్చినటువంటి ప్రొఫెసర్ జేఎల్ఎన్ రావు గారికి తెలంగాణ జనవేదిక తరఫున ప్రత్యేకమైనటువంటి ధన్యవాదాలు సార్. అట్లాగే ఈ కార్యక్రమంలో పాల్గొన్నటువంటి ప్రొఫెసర్ సుధాకర్ గారికి, ప్రొఫెసర్ సంజీవ్ రెడ్డి గారికి, డాక్టర్ లక్ష్మీప్రసాద్ గారికి, ఇతర మిత్రులందరికీ పేరు పేరున ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేసుకుంటూ ఈనాటి ఈ కార్యక్రమం ఇంతటితో ముగుస్తుంది. వచ్చే ఆదివారం మరొక అంశంతో మీ ముందుకు వస్తామని తెలియజేసుకుంటూ ఇవాటితో ఈ అంశము ముగిచింది. ఈ కార్యక్రమం ఇంతటితో ముగిస్తున్నారు. థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్, థ్యాంక్ యూ ప్రతి ఒక్కరికి. థ్యాంక్ యూ.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. With a very short notice, you have given a wonderful lecture. I thank on behalf of you, on behalf of Telangana Jana Vedika immensely. I'm very happy that you have come all the way and delivered a very good lecture, sir. Thank
you so much.